Welcome back, everyone, to These Aren't the Nerds You're Looking For. We got a little bonus episode coming to your ears. This is Kevin Horde.
Lorenzo Fonzin over here.
What up, Lorenzo?
Not much. We got another bonus episode. We had one not too long ago. This time, we're going to talk about the Star Wars Resistance trailer that dropped, yeah?
Yeah. So, last time we talked about, or last bonus episode, we talked about the Clone Wars Saved trailer, and not too long after that, the Star Wars Resistance trailer came out, so we decided to sit on, talk about that, and then there's some other Star Wars and nerdy news out there, so we figured it was time to just sit down and chit-chat and let you guys listen in, so...
Yeah, and we wanted to make this its own bonus episode, too, because as you might know, if you listen to us consistently, when we do talk about the episodes in general, we go on for a while. So trying to pad that out just sounded like a bad idea. So we wanted to spin off and just kind of give this reaction its own episode.
There was some stuff we wanted to talk about without interrupting our normal, concise 2 hours of nonsense. So
air quotes, concise.
So...
Yeah, before Kevin and I get into this, I'll play some audio from the trailer. The trailer is only a minute long, so we'll just run that, and then after we play the audio, we'll come back and discuss.
Can you imagine what it's like to be an ace pilot? This is your chance to make that true.
I've got a mission for you.
Yes!
Blend in, find out who's loyal to the good guys and who isn't.
What was that?
What was what?
The throwing and the falling. Over there.
Don't think about it.
You can work on my team,
Get ready to be impressed.
but when it comes to your mission as a spy, I don't want anything to do with it.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
I just wanted to wish my competition good luck.
This is fine. I'm fine.
Just be careful and don't explode.
I'll do my best.
This should be good.
Here we go.
Star Wars Resistance in all new series premieres Sunday, October 7th at 10 on Disney Channel.
Yes!
All right, you want to get into it? You want to get started on the trailer here?
Yeah. My first impression is a lot of ships, a lot of people that we haven't seen before, and some droids. So that's my first impression. What's the first thing that came to your mind?
For me, for sure, the first thing I noticed is the art style. The art style is completely different from Clone Wars, completely different from Star Wars Rebels, which they were both definitely animated shows, but they went the traditional kind of CG route of just having some sort of character models and, CG landscapes, all that.
Right.
This one is definitely going for a cel-shaded CG anime look, which I did look up afterwards. It's no coincidence that the production company behind the animation for this is Polygon. And I'm actually a huge fan of the couple of shows that they do. They actually worked on Disney Channel's Tron animated series a while back. And then they also have a show on Netflix called Knights of Sidonia. Okay. And it's very much like the styling itself, like the character designs, all that is very different. But in terms of that CG / 2D hybrid look, that is very similar. They also work on the trilogy of Godzilla animated movies that are coming out on Netflix right now. So if you watch any of those, this is the style that we're seeing for Star Wars Resistance right now. So
yes.
So other than that, it's very bright, it's very colorful. Like I said, it stands apart from Rebels and Clone Wars, and I very much like that style. With other shows like Knights of Sidonia and stuff, sometimes you've heard me complain a lot on the Clone Wars about kind of wooden acting.
Okay.
That is a thing that does tend to happen on Knights of Sidonia, but it's one of those weird things because it looks so much like a traditional anime, but it doesn't have kind of the same full expressions that might happen in a hand-drawn anime show.
Okay.
Right.
Now, when you say it looks so much like a traditional anime, can you maybe throw out a couple of examples that, it might be similar to?
Well, just in terms of, kind of just emulating just hand-drawn styles of, say, something like Attack on Titan or One Punch Man, which are on right now. Okay. If you want to go back, it doesn't follow all the tropes of anime per se, like Dragon Ball, for example. But there's still just kind of the character design of kind of straight lines down the side of the heads. The chins kind of come to a point, big eyes, sort of thing. Smaller mouths, the expressions that kind of come with that. But in terms of what I mean by kind of the lack of life that you might see in a traditional anime, the movements are still a little bit more rigid because it's still a character, computer generated kind of programmed motion. But the one last thing I kind of want to say about the animation style in regards to the other shows and what I'm excited to see in Star Wars Resistance is, in a show like Knights of Sidonia, which if you don't know anything about it, it's a Japanese mech suit show. So think Mobile Suit Gundam, right? Just characters getting in giant mechs and just fighting aliens in space. The really nice thing about CG is when damage appears on the mech suits or even on their space suits that they might wear, because it's CG, the damage can actually get animated into the suit itself and it stays consistent, and there's scratches and stuff that will appear, which kind of will not happen in any other show, right?
Yeah, I feel like you brought this up recently. Maybe we were talking off mic about it. I don't know. This conversation sounds familiar.
Yeah, I personally don't recall, but yeah, so this is as soon as I saw this, I had the suspicion, and then I went to look, and sure enough, Polygon is in charge of it. So on that end, I'm very excited for just for a show that looks different. So yes, I've been talking for a while now about it. So what else you got?
I not quite that much. I did look into the voice cast a little bit. So most of these names don't mean anything to me. But most of the names as far as the characters don't mean anything to me. Yeah. But some of the people doing the voice acting I'm familiar with.
Yes.
Donald Faison.
Oh yeah.
Is
huge fan of him.
He's playing a character called Hype Faison. So,
yeah. Which I found very, very funny.
Yeah, it was announced recently that General Leia Organa is going to be a character on the show. She's going to be voiced by Rachel Butera, who I am not quite familiar with, but
I didn't look it up, but is she the same person who's been voicing Leia for the Forces of Destiny's shorts?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah, I did not look that up. Do you want to look that up, and then I'll kind of talk about the rest of the cast? Let's run down the characters that we know as of right now. So the main character will be a kid, I guess, like a younger pilot named Kazuda Ziono, I guess is how I would pronounce that. Another character that we know about is Orka, Orka. Hype Faison, Tam Rivora, Jarek Yeager, Toradoza, Niku, and then we have Flix, and then we have returning guest characters besides Leia. We know of BB-8 is in the trailer, Poe Dameron is in the trailer, and we know Captain Phasma will be back as well. To what capacity, we do not know. As to the people voicing these various characters, so we got, for Kazuda, it's an actor named Christopher Sean, who I am not familiar with. Do you know anything about this actor?
Not off the top of my head. I'm pulling him
Yeah.
up right now just to kind of take a look at him.
Yeah, for Orca, it's voiced by Bobby Moynihan, who I love off of SNL and DuckTales.
It looks like Mr. Christopher Sean was on Hawaii Five-0.
Unseen by Me. Oh, I think I did see he was on Days of Our Lives or something like that, right?
Yep, he was
think
Paul Narita on Days of Our Lives from 2014 to 2018.
so
I'm not seeing
that's a
anything
pretty
that jumps out at me.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's go down the rest of the cast real quick. So Tam Rivora is being voiced by Susie McGrath. Jarek Yeager is Scott Lawrence.
Real quick, do you think
Yes.
that is a call out to Chuck Yeager, possibly?
I was thinking that because Yeager is such a very specific name.
Right, and especially the association with piloting and experimental flight back in the day. So
Yeah,
I just kind of figured that that was why that name was chosen. So
Yeah, for sure. That was kind of the first thing that came to my mind as well. Carrying on, we have Tora Doza is voiced by Mirna Velasco. Another unknown name to me. The character of Niku is being voiced by Josh Brenner, who is also on DuckTales and is Big Head on Silicon Valley, if you watch that. So it's been interesting that we have as of so far, two DuckTales alums. Donald Faison voicing Hype Faison, as you said earlier, and then a third actor from DuckTales is Jim Rash.
okay,
Who is the principal from Community as well, and also the frickin' Oscar winner for helping write the Descendants, I believe is what he won the Oscar for. So he, yeah. And then for Dameron and for Poe and Captain Phasma, Oscar Isaac and Gwendolyn Christie are reported as coming back. So,
nice. To get back to your question earlier, Rachel Butera, who is voicing Leia, is not who did the voice in Forces of Destiny. That was Shelby Young.
Interesting.
So we got somebody else coming in for that.
That's interesting. Yeah, Disney's that's been interesting to me lately because I don't know how I don't know. I feel like I've talked about this on the show, but for the Mickey Mouse shorts, Disney has like a resident in-house voice for Mickey Mouse that does everything Mickey Mouse. You know, the current iteration that is a happy-go-lucky, very positive sort of character. But for the Mickey Mouse specific shorts that have been airing on Disney Channel, they wanted to go back to kind of the classic theatrical shorts that were voiced by Walt Disney and made by Walt Disney himself. So they didn't use the in-house actor, who's Brett Ewan, I believe is his name. They hired, and I'm never going to get this name right, it's Chris... I need to look it up. It's the Trace Comas guy, again from Silicon Valley. But looking it up. But
So while you're looking that up,
Chris Diamantopoulos. Never gonna get that right.
Diamantopoulos.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. Yeah, he's a very, very, very Greek guy. I think that's a Greek last name, but I believe he's actually Canadian. But yeah, that dude is all over the place because he just did a run on Broadway in the show Waitress too. So, anyways, That was just a weird way of saying that. It's funny to me that there isn't loyalty is not the right word, but it's they're not afraid to just get somebody to do the job if for whatever reason it doesn't fit the other actor who has done it before, right?
Yeah, well, we saw that already in the episodes of the Clone Wars that we've watched, where
That is true.
Ahmed Best was replaced by another voice actor, and if you look at that guy's IMDb page, I don't remember his name currently off the top of my head, but there wasn't much on it other than doing like 3 episodes of the Clone Wars voicing Jar Jar Binks. So,
see, like in that case, I don't. Like I kind of understand because like Ahmed Best may or may not want to come back for like every single episode. It's kind of the same way that like Samuel L. Jackson came back for the movie but didn't come back for the regular run, right? But between but between series, like that's kind of what gets me, right? Like that's
like when you you've got a recurring character with a certain voice on, playing this voice on this series, and then a new series comes out with the same character and they just grab somebody else up. That's what you're talking
exactly.
about.
Yeah, it'd be like if James Arnold Taylor didn't come back to do Obi-Wan for Clone Wars, right? Like for the upcoming Clone Wars, right?
Yeah, that would
like,
be
right.
That would be weird. Even if they had Ewan McGregor, it just wouldn't feel right.
Yeah, it wouldn't feel right. So that's kind of why I find that interesting. I'm sure this Rachel Butera will do just fine. I'm sure she'll do great. It's just this isn't a complaint. I just find it interesting that between basically like we have like 4 people playing Leia at this point, then, right? Because it'd be Carrie Fisher, whoever played her in Rogue One, whoever played her in Forces of Destiny, whoever played her in Rebels, and then whoever's playing her here. That's 5, right?
Yeah, unless you want to include like video games and
yeah,
shit like that. There's probably more.
Yeah,
but
I just find that very interesting.
I'm looking at Rachel Butera's IMDb page, and nothing really jumps out at me. It looks like a lot of voice acting, all the way back to Pokemon in 2010. Damn. Leisure Suit Larry in the Land of the Lounge Lizards Reloaded from 2013. Mad TV, a bunch of stuff that I'm not familiar with.
If you're scrolling that much, she's working, so that's good.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, she played Krang Prime.
Interesting.
Yep. She was on Harvey Beaks. She did some American Dad, some Family Guy. She played Meryl Streep on Family Guy. So,
very nice.
Maybe you guys will know her from there.
Yeah.
So,
I think the other thing to note is that the show will premiere on October 7th, 2018. And the thing I found interesting is that it will premiere on Disney Channel at 10 p.m.
on a Sunday.
Yes, so Sunday night at 10 p.m. So that timing is the one thing I found really odd.
What time zone?
I think just across time zones, so that so Eastern, 10 o'clock, and then 3-hour delay for West Coast, right?
Oh, that sucks.
So 9 o'clock for you in Central Time Zone. Yeah.
Okay. Wait.
You get what I'm saying?
So it would be 10 Eastern, 9 Central, 8
and
Mountain. So it'll be
Mountain. I've never understood. Mountain gets goes all the way back, but then West Coast always gets the 3-hour delay.
So it won't be on until 10 o'clock for you? For
me, yeah. Unless they release it simultaneously on the Disney Channel app, then I could watch at 7 o'clock.
Gotcha.
That's kind of the secret to watching Game of Thrones is you don't wait for it to air on HBO if you're here in the West Coast. You just go on HBO Go and watch it at 6 o'clock. Right. But every other show is always on a 3-hour delay.
That's interesting.
Yeah, like there are exceptions, like live events, Super Bowl, stuff like that. Oscars, I get to watch at 5:00. But like America's Got Talent on NBC still airs at 8:00. So we just, even if it's a live episode, we get the pre-recorded version that was recorded live 3 hours prior, right? Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the first syndication of it.
Basically, yeah. So that's why if you've ever seen sitcoms that do like live episodes, like 30 Rock did a live episode, even Simpsons did a live episode just a couple years ago.
How'd they do that?
There was like a live...
It was like a live script reading, or...
No, so what it was like the first 20 minutes of the episode was a regular episode. And then the last 3 minutes of it, there was some sort of like flash technology that was happening so that Dan Castellaneta, that is the voice of Homer, whenever he talked, the program would automatically move Homer's mouth and listen to what was being said and kind of take a guess at what his mouth movement would look like.
That's
most
creepy.
Other things that were around him were basically the same. There were a few things that would change up. I did watch both versions. They put both versions on Hulu the next day, which I found really interesting. So to prove that it was live, they did, for both East Coast and West Coast version, have Dan Castellaneta say things that were very specific. I think he called out like a baseball game score or something like that too. So that was kind of, you knew it was live East Coast, and then you knew it was live West Coast.
Weird.
So it shows that we'll do live episodes like that. We'll do it twice, once for East Coast, once for West Coast.
That's so
yeah.
weird.
Yeah, so you'll like if you binge watch 30 Rock, they'll like the live episodes, you'll have two versions. So if you want to be a completionist about it, you'll watch both versions.
Of them. Is 30 Rock's not still on, is it?
Oh no, it's been long gone. Yeah,
that's what I thought.
Or I know ER. That's the one I remember. Long ago, like 20 years ago, ER did a live episode.
I remember this.
You do remember? Or you don't?
I do.
Oh yeah, because I remember. This is before the internet, but the next day, like Entertainment Tonight or something like that, did like a comparison, and there's like one scene where a guy like freaks out during a scene and like grabs a scalpel and like starts waving it at the doctors. But in the West Coast one, the thing he was grabbing for, like it flipped off the table, so he was just like yelling at them, which I found really funny. That's.
Because he had already grabbed it
live.
and threatened the doctor.
It was already gone. Yeah, it was already gone. So,
the one thing that sticks out to me thinking about that episode is that they had that trope where it's like, oh, there's going to be a camera crew here, like recording a documentary, and for the protection of, in case somebody on the crew didn't get their shit together and get out of the way quick enough, and if any crew members or camera or boom or anything happen to be
that's just cheating to me.
View.
I just think that's dumb. Like
I'm not saying that real. I thought it was great, but
yeah. No, just as the trope, like just as how you're building that into the episode is just so weird to me. Right?
So what about the what about like Peter Pan Live, the musical?
Oh no, we just got a 3-hour delayed broadcast for that.
Oh, okay.
So that one, because like that is so labor intensive. Also because depending on the show, you would only get like 2 minutes to reset everything, right? Mm-hmm. No, we just get the delayed recording.
Gotcha.
Which is really funny for some of those, because Grease Live was the one that I only watched like the first 5 minutes of it before I called it quits on that one. I could not stand that one whatsoever. But I recognized the opening where it's like, what's her name? Jessie J or something like that. She's singing and she's walking around the exterior of the school.
Okay.
It was the one rare day in California that was raining.
I
I have the weird memory where I've taken the WB tour like 3 times, and I recognize exactly where on the back lot of WB they were filming that.
Okay.
But then, because it's on that 3-hour delay, it was like, 8 o'clock in the winter in California where the sun sets at like 5 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
But at 8 o'clock, it was like pitch black, but I'm watching the Grease live. I notice where it is, but they still have like the twinkle of daylight in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that's annoying, because I know that's in California. I know exactly where that is. And I know it's not live because the sun isn't accurate to our current, like to what's literally outside my window. So, but it depends on the programming. But like I said, so most like Academy or most award shows will be live. The only one that doesn't, and it pisses me off to no end, and I need CBS to get their shit together, is that they do not air the Tonys live for West Coast. I don't know why, because if you think about it, so Academy Awards are celebrating movies, which is a filmed medium. Mm-hmm. Emmys celebrating television, filmed medium. Yeah. Grammys celebrating recorded sound. And then Tonys are the one award show celebrating an actual live experience. And
it's pre-recorded.
It fucking pisses me off so much, because I just want to watch the fucking Tonys and watch the performances. And the Tonys are the one award show that's built around the performances rather than the awards, right?
You should go. Just go.
Right. Yeah, or I just need to fly to New York every fucking year for it.
Yeah, just go.
Watch it East Coast feed. But yeah, like it really sucks that by the time it starts airing here, all I have to do is step onto Twitter, and I know all the results. I know every single result. Yeah, I know who won Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, Best so for both male and female, Best Play, Best Writing, Best Sets, Best Lights, Best fucking Musical. Like I know everything, So it's just I don't get why CBS doesn't do that. And I've double checked too. Like every year, I always turn on. It's always like the it's either like the weekend after Memorial Day or the one following the first weekend. It's like it's 2 weekends after. It's within the first 2 weekends of Memorial. It's always on a Sunday, and I always, just out of curiosity, just to see if CBS is getting their shit together, turn on the TV at 5 o'clock. And I'm like, nope, that's local news. Son of a fucking bitch.
Can you watch it online?
I've looked for it, but it's really difficult. Yeah, like I've never been able to find a way to stream it online. So if somebody knows, please let me know, because I would very much love to watch the Tonys live.
Yeah, I would offer to put it on my TV and then just like FaceTime you, but
just point the Skype at the TV, because I would totally do that.
I don't have regular television.
I will buy you an antenna.
Can't even do that.
I will buy you an antenna to plug into your TV.
Yeah.
So
we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, because like what sucks too is like for an event show like that too, for Oscars, I have like 3 friends that like still live in Chicago and still live in Michigan that I text during the show. It's the one time we can kind of sit and have like a shared experience across the country, right? Like complaining, right? Yeah. So, but yeah, anyways, that's so if you aren't familiar, if you've only lived in the East Coast or east of the Mississippi all your life, then it's something I knew when it was going to happen when I moved here, but the reality of it is another thing. So certain shows too. Luckily I've been better about it, but when I first moved here, for example, say like Walking Dead spoilers, right? Sunday nights I just knew I wouldn't go on Twitter. Mm-hmm. Just I couldn't go on, because anybody's name from that show that starts trending, they're dead. Right? Like, as soon as the name from that show starts trending, like the Sunday where I fucked up, spoiler alert, I just go on Twitter and I just see T-Dog's name and I go, oh, son of a fucking bitch. God damn it. And then sure enough, it's like, T-Dog. God damn it, T-Dog.
So what you need to do is you need to get a really, really long cable and just run it from your parents' house back to your apartment.
Yeah,
and,
like
just plug in.
What's been interesting too is when I was younger, if you got certain DirecTV packages, you would get both the East Coast and West Coast feeds of things. But
that's interesting.
Now that I am living on my own and I don't feel like paying for like satellite or anything, I've always been curious, and I've never gone to anybody else's house that has it. I've seen the option there, but the East Coast feed has always been blocked out. But I've always been curious about the ability to, like, what package I would have to get as a West Coaster to get that East Coast feed for like CBS and NBC and stuff like that, you know? So, anyways.
Yeah.
We are so far off topic now.
It happens.
Yeah.
Anyway, Star Wars Resistance premiere Sunday, October 7th at 10 p.m., depending on where you are, maybe.
Yeah, so
really
back
sure.
to the original thing that branched us off. What do you think about choosing 10 p.m. for a time slot for a Sunday night?
I think it's fucking weird.
For a children's show, right?
Yeah,
like,
and part of my response to watching this trailer is that it feels more of a children's show than Rebels did. And initially, when I first saw like the trailers for Rebels and stuff, that felt like more of a children's show than the Clone Wars. I don't think necessarily that that's the way I felt after viewing Star Wars Rebels, but my initial response to the trailer, with the character design and doing a little bit of research before that actually came out, I was like, yeah, all right, it's Star Wars, I'll give it a shot. And this feels like more of a kid's show than that, especially, I guess, maybe because it ends with, like the Disney XD ditty.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, new show coming to Disney XD.
Well, here's my question for you. Does it feel more like a child show only because, say coming off of Rebels or knowing where Clone Wars has gone? Like, because to me, we've talked about this. The beginning of Clone Wars to me is such a child-aimed show that it was hard for me to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But then, even at where we are now with that series in talking about it on this podcast.
Right, 28 episodes in or so.
Yeah, like the show has matured up a little bit, right? Like it's still child appropriate, but it's definitely taken on an edge. And I would say the same thing about Rebels, where even the first season of that show, there were still a lot of episodes that frustrated me to some degree in terms of just the tone, right?
Yeah, and we'll definitely get to our opinions of Rebels eventually, but sticking to the Clone Wars and Resistance, I definitely agree with you and understand what you're saying as far as the Clone Wars goes. And with Resistance, I think maybe it's just the way that the trailer was cut.
Yes, yeah. There's definitely a lot of gags and jokes that are put in this trailer, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lorenzo and I talked earlier. We've seen this trailer a couple times before sitting down, and when we were talking about how we were going to approach, are we going to be able to do any type of description of the trailer or whatever, we didn't really think that was feasible, or it
just from an audio standpoint.
Work.
Yeah,
it's
there's a
just
lot
not
to describe.
well.
Yeah, there's a lot to describe, only because there's a lot of it's a 1 minute trailer. It's very quickly paced. There's a lot of stuff that happens. They do drop a lot of information, but it is a weird, like, I'm personally excited for the show, but the trailer itself is definitely a weird mixed bag because I feel like they're trying to accommodate a lot of things all at once. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
Whereas like with Clone Wars Saved, that was like, that had a very singular purpose, which was just to show that the show was back.
Right. Hey,
Yeah.
we're back. We
Yeah.
got some updated character models, but
Yeah.
we're back. Like,
Here you go. Yeah.
Here you go.
But this one is like, this is supposed to be a trailer that's probably for Star Wars fans, old and young, but then like a trailer that will play on Disney Channel, so it has to kind of fit into that audience.
Yeah, I almost feel like this is a trailer for like young kids, like, hey, look at this fun thing that's coming to Disney XD, and then like dad walks in the room and it's like, hey, is that Poe Dameron?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey,
Yeah.
There's BB-8. And
BB-8, yeah.
like that's what I got out of the trailer. I think that the show is going to be much better than what we've seen, because
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be 22 minutes of 3-second cuts between this and that and gag and haha and
Exactly.
funny and
Yeah.
cut. So
Because it's really interesting that, yeah, it's a 1 minute trailer. Like, I feel like even if we got like a 2 or 3 minute trailer, we would have felt so differently, because it would have had so much more room to breathe and wouldn't have tried to do like the joke of every other moment sort of thing, right? Because even the Clone Wars Saved trailer is like 3 minutes long?
yeah, it's 2:34.
Yeah, so that one has a lot of room to breathe while doing very
It is
purposefully little. Yeah. Go ahead.
it is 2 minutes and 42 seconds.
So, yeah, I'm not putting all my expectations based on this trailer alone, for sure. To me, like a show too.
Yeah,
it's like,
I definitely
you got to sell me the
am
premise.
not either.
Yeah, you got to sell me the premise, and then like I'll watch the pilot and maybe an episode after that before I kind of make a decision on a show.
Yeah,
So go ahead.
I will say that the rating on the show is TVY7.
Which is where Rebels came in at, right?
Was it?
I believe that was TVY7.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's like if to compare that to film, that's like a G, right?
No, that would be like a PG.
Is it a PG?
Because there's TV. I think there's just like a basic TVY or TVG or something like that.
There probably is TVG.
Yeah, that's your
And
young
then
one. 'Cause
TVY7 and TV
it's like 7 and up.
13. No,
Yeah.
TV14.
Yeah, TV14.
And TVMA. Why they can't just use like the same rating system, I'm not really sure. But that's neither here nor there. Do you know what the first episode is called?
I do not, no.
It's called The Recruit. And the description of Recruit is as follows. If my computer will cooperate with me.
Real quick while you're doing that.
Sure.
I just looked up the TV parental guidelines just out of curiosity. There's a shit ton of them. So it starts with TVY, TVY7, TVG, TVPG, TV14, TVMA. So
Are
and-
TVY and TVY7 the same as TVG and TVPG? Probably.
No, those are apparently very different. So TVY and TVY7 are designed to be aimed at children. They are shows specifically aimed at children. I think this is why the differentiation is made, because when you're plopping like a toddler in front of the boob tube, right?
Right. As opposed
there-
to the actual boob.
Yes, there is the concern about, like the psychology of what that does to children, right? Mm-hmm. So they want to put a rating in there that designates that, like, hey, these are shows meant for children, aimed towards children. This is like what that is. And then TVG is a show that's appropriate for anybody. Like a child could be sitting there watching it, but it's not a show that might be interesting to children, right?
So this is a literal kid show, not a Kirk Cameron movie.
Yes, basically. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you see that, the differentiation between something like aimed specifically towards children and like maybe just something that's like broader. So like maybe think like, I don't know, maybe like Planet Earth or something, right? Like that's a thing that like children can watch. It doesn't mean that like that's a kid show to get them invested in per se.
Right.
So yeah, so that's where that's where the G and PG come in. And then 14 obviously is kind of like the PG-13 equivalent there, and then TV MA is your hard R, basically,
right.
Which is to me really funny because there's a lot of times TV, oddly enough to me, seems a little more forgiving because some shows I've always thought as being TVMA. Mm-hmm. But like Walking Dead is TV-14.
I was Walking Dead is the first thing that popped into my mind when you said that.
Always assumed that's an MA show. But then I feel like Legion I think is TVMA, which is again odd to me.
That's got to be for language or something.
But then cuz Walking Dead like they sprinkle in a bunch of like shits especially.
Uh-huh.
You know, I'm trying to think. Mad Men, I think for most of its run was TV-14, and then later on they went full MA, especially in the later seasons. Like in the last season, like it used to be like an AMC rule where each show was allowed like one F-word usage per season. But then...
it's kind of like a PG-13 now. You can drop one F-bomb per movie.
Yes, exactly. Because like the rules on television are a little bit different too. Like there's nothing limiting how many F words you say, and especially regarding ratings, I believe. But that was just more of an AMC stance than anything.
Right.
By the last season of Mad Men, literally every episode had an F word in it, and some of them had multiples. Right. So, because I think even in season 4, they let one out like in the premiere episode, and everybody was like, "Wait, since when could you say fuck on AMC?"
Yeah, what the fuck, AMC?
Yeah, but the thing that nobody realizes is that the only channels that are very strictly controlled are over-air broadcast networks. So that'd be your CBS, NBC, Fox, ABC, and CW.
Right.
Those are the ones that have FCC regulations on them.
What about PBS?
And PBS, yeah. PBS would be the other one. They can get around that to some degree, but even then, so like Ken Burns' Vietnam War, they aired a very, very censored version on PBS, but there is a uncensored version that is full-blown TVMA that puts all the curse words back in.
Right.
I never watched the censored version, so I'm not sure exactly in terms of visuals what might have been peeled back per se.
Yeah, that's interesting. My wife and I just watched that recently too, and I'm not even.
Yeah, the language for sure. There's maybe a few photos that I can think of that would be problematic on PBS. The one of the village girl running down the street, the very, very famous photo. I don't remember the photographer's name.
Right.
Like it'd be like that photo, and because she's running down the street naked. And then there's the other famous photo of the guy getting executed, and the camera just happens to capture right at that moment when he's starting to go down. Yeah. So those are the few things that I could imagine that might require some warning of some sort. But otherwise, like on a channel like AMC USA, any normal, even just like your lowest run cable channels, they technically are not beholden to anything really. They have, as far as my understanding is, and I could be wrong if somebody can correct me later, but a channel like AMC has full rights to do everything that HBO does, right? Like, they can have a full-blown sex scene. They can say fuck and shit or whatever they want as many times as they want. They can show whatever violence they want, nudity, all that jazz. The only reason these channels until recently did not is because they were beholden to advertisers.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking
That's
company standards, but that totally makes sense.
Yeah. They didn't want to alienate advertisers, and advertisers didn't want to be scared about promoting certain shows that might, in certain people's eyes, promote violence or promote sexuality of some sort or sexual promiscuity or whatever, right? Sexual, sexual activity, whatever. But with the turn of television in the last 10 years, starting with maybe, say, like Breaking Bad, Mad Men, somewhere around that range of television there. The quality has trumped it, and advertisers are seeing that, like, oh, these Breaking Bad is a show people watch. They curse a hell of a lot, but we don't have to be worried about people connecting a teacher making meth, running a business to like our Procter and Gamble Tide products, right?
Right.
So, that's my very nerdy talk on all things television. You were gonna say you're looking something else.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I'm just waiting patiently. It's all good.
Yeah.
So the description on IMDb of Star Wars Resistance says Caduza Giono, a young pilot for the Resistance, is tasked with a top-secret mission to investigate the First Order, a growing threat in the galaxy. So then I looked at The Recruit, which is the first episode, and the description of that is Poe Dameron tasks young pilot Kaz with spying on the secretive First Order. Kaz travels to the Colossus space station and is drawn into a race there. So, one, I think that's pretty repetitive, and two, this whole Colossus space station and race theme that is said to be part of The Recruit, the first episode, which I just noticed is going to be 45 minutes long.
Okay.
So that's cool.
Yeah.
That seems to be
that a lot, actually.
Have they?
Yeah,
Are these so? I guess these are just like essentially this will be like a double episode.
Yeah. It depends on the show because the premiere of Tangled was actually like a full blown movie. It was like
there was a movie called Tangled.
Well, there was a movie called Tangled, and then when it switched to 2D animation on TV, I think the first episode was actually like a full 90-minute deal.
That's
right?
fucking weird.
Or like it, with commercial, like take out commercials, so like 60 whatever minutes,
right?
60 or 70 minutes.
This will be like an hour. It'll be on from 10 to 11.
Yeah.
For a Y7 program.
Yeah. Wow. So weird.
It is so weird. But what I was going to bring up is it sounds like many of the shots that we saw in this trailer are potentially from this episode.
Mm-hmm, for sure. I would garner to guess the way Filoni trailers have worked in the past, especially like regarding Rebels.
Yes.
Like there will be like a lot of reveals and revelations, and you're like, holy shit, what the? And then you watch the season premiere episode, and you're like, shit, the trailer was only for this episode.
Right.
Like, what the fuck is going to happen in the rest of this goddamn series if everything I saw in the trailer was...
We got 21 more episodes. Is it Resistance that is 12 episodes, or am I confusing that with Season 7 of the Clone Wars?
I did not look any of that up. I did not see anything regarding an episode count for Resistance.
It looks like Resistance is 10.
Damn.
As of right now.
Yeah, that's interesting because
what I'm
especially because at least in my mind, I've been treating this Resistance as kind of the animation replacement for Rebels having gone away.
Yeah, and I like and I'm happy that you brought up Dave Filoni.
Mm-hmm.
So the rumor was that Dave Filoni was like heading this new animated series that we found out was Resistance, right?
Yes.
After this trailer dropped, we found out that Dave Filoni doesn't actually have as much to do with the show.
Nope. Yeah.
So he's the supervising director, is that correct? Or what's his title on this? I don't even know.
Probably like executive producing or something like that.
Executive producer, probably.
Yeah.
He is
like
essentially to this show what George Lucas was to the Clone Wars.
Yes, yeah. He'll kind of pop in and out to check up on it, but it's not his baby. Like, it's not.
Well, kind of like it's his baby in the means of it was his idea. Mm-hmm. He said, "Hey, I want to do this." Potentially, he said, "We're going to have these characters doing these things." Maybe he was like, "Hey, I like Poe Dameron. Let's bring him in." Maybe not. Maybe that was Disney. Who knows? But the overarching idea was his, with not necessarily specific plot points, but maybe general arcs and story.
Yeah.
And then it sounds like he hired a team and oversaw some production and then was able to step back and let them organically develop it along the way.
Yes. Which I am actually really excited about. Not because I
am
don't,
too.
It's not because I don't like Filoni. I would like a different perspective for sure, right?
Yeah, it's kind of the next step in animation, and kudos to Dave Filoni from, starting as a cosplayer and, doing animation for other shows and other studios and proving his worth and coming in and working his way up and becoming JLJ,
Yeah, like just...
Or GLJ, George Lucas Jr. That's definitely a G and not a J.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So basically just heading... Yeah, so he's essentially the... it's Pete Docter, and who's the other person that is... I can't remember her name. I feel really bad. But the way John Lasseter used to head Walt Disney Animation, right?
Okay.
So, like, people would come to him with ideas, or sometimes he would pitch ideas of his own.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, so, like... And then sometimes he would step back and, like, go direct Cars 2, which was fucking weird. But, yeah, so he's in charge of Lucasfilm Animation now. So he essentially he can still focus on a show if he wants to, but his breadth of responsibilities is now so much wider. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, anyways, Jennifer Lee. Just looked it up. Jennifer Lee. I'm so sorry to Jennifer Lee.
It is.
Yeah. Just could not remember that. It's been so bad with names. Anyways, is there anything else you want to talk about with Resistance here?
I think that's all I've got for Resistance. We're going to have to see come October 7th and just go from there. So I'm excited about the idea. This trailer didn't necessarily fuel that excitement. But it's not like I watched this trailer and became full of hate and swore off Resistance. Like, no, it's a new chapter. You give it a go, and we'll
also
have more opinions on it in the future. I can guarantee that much.
Yeah, like, I'd rather judge the full thing, right? Like, as we've done on this podcast, right? Like, I will reserve full judgment until we get the full thing, because I acknowledge with this trailer that this, as we discussed, this trailer wasn't made for the 30 and up crowd, right? Like,
right.
This was a TVY7 trailer made for TVY7ers. So,
Now, that being said, I'm going to force your hand and make you give this a thumbs up, thumbs down.
Really?
Yeah. We got to do it.
I mean, as trailers go, I'll give it a thumbs up because it does what it needed to do.
Okay.
Right. Is it a well put together trailer? No. But it reveals the characters, it reveals the animation style. It shows that Poe is back. It shows us the world. It shows us to some degree the tone in the short minute. Right. I'm giving it a lot of leeway too because it is just a simple 60-second trailer. So.
Yeah. So, not just to be contrary wise, but I'm going to give this a thumbs down.
Yeah.
Only because. So I've watched this probably 5 to 15 times by now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there isn't enough that stands out in my mind other than a couple of ship shots.
Yeah.
And knowing that I'm like, don't know that person, don't know that person, don't know that person, which is the way that it should be because it's a new show. But I guess overall this trailer wasn't memorable enough to pull me that next step in. That being said, I am absolutely going to watch this show, and I'm stoked for the show.
But this trailer was not the reason. Yeah.
Yes.
And I fully agree with you. I think the reason I'm lenient on it is because in my head, I see this trailer playing on Disney Channel all the time, and I think that's really what it was meant for. I think if they had gotten their shit together a little bit more and cut together like a full trailer and then done like a TV spot version, right?
It definitely is a Disney Channel, Disney XD, whatever, 1 minute in between shows.
Yes.
Promo for
a
show.
Yeah,
but it's
so
not. It's not on the
yeah.
level of we got this new thing coming.
Yeah.
Here's what we got. Check it out.
Like they needed to cut together like a trailer 1 Last Jedi sort of trailer is what they should have done. And then worried about the TV spots after the fact. But that's so in my head I'm comparing against other TV trailers. That's my logic behind thinking about this one. So but I agree with you.
Yeah.
Like in any case, I'm going to watch the show and then judge it there. So all right.
For sure.
Yeah. So before we get out of here, there's a few other things we want to talk about that's Star Wars related. As of today of this recording, which to put a hard date on this episode is August 28th, 2018, there was some new casting announcement for Star Wars.
Yep.
But we'd also thought this would be a good time to kind of catch up a little bit because we haven't actually talked about... We always talk about Clone Wars. We rarely branch out to talk about future stuff, which is a thing I think is a very big part of the Star Wars fandom is just looking forward. Let's start with today's casting news, which is Matt Smith has been announced to join the cast in a quote-unquote key role. We have pretty much no other information than that, but Matt Smith, the 11th Doctor, if you're a Whovian, or
the 11th Doctor he is.
Prince Philip on The Crown. My friend brought up a speculation that he could be Rey's father in a flashback, to which I just then made a bunch of jokes regarding The Crown. So
that's interesting.
I mean, we have no evidence for this. He just kind of brought it up. I was like, I mean, they're both British, I guess, right?
Yeah. So you know more about the way that movies and credits and things like that work, right?
Yes.
How does it work on IMDb as far as what order people are listed in?
Okay, so when it comes to as of yet released stuff for IMDb, that's just like a random hodgepodge. Like, don't go by anything. That's a shit show. You can only really go by when a movie is released and the IMDb order kind of reshuffles to whatever order the credits are listed in, right?
Okay, so here's why I ask.
Yes.
Because when you go to episode 9's IMDb page, the order of cast is General Hux, Kylo Ren, Rey, Rose Tico, Poe Dameron, Kerry Russell in an unnamed role,
Yep.
Billy Lord as Lieutenant Connix, then Matt Smith, then Luke Skywalker, then Leia, then Dominic Monaghan in an unnamed role, Maz Kanata, Finn, Richard E. Grant in an unnamed role, and then Chewbacca.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like when it comes to pre-release stuff, there is nothing that's tying down stuff because it's all tentative. Right?
Okay.
So there's no hard set order that's being placed on the IMDb.
So why wouldn't they just like, this is the first person that was announced to be in it, and fucking put their name at the top, and this is the next person, this is the next person?
It's also something about maybe how you have to enter that into IMDb, because I've had to do that. It's like super confusing. It doesn't make any sense. I've tried to like work on the ordering, and then in our case, it was always, I only set up the IMDb page for the movies I've worked on after they've been released, or after at least we have a hard version of it. Like this is the final cut. This is what we got. Things aren't changing. Cut to like a month later, like somebody spells something wrong in a title or something like that. But, but by and large, the order that interviews are happening and whatever names in the credits and all that show up, that's pretty hard set. But as to something in development, I think IMDb is just throwing it in a shuffle, because there is no ordering.
That's weird.
So, yeah. So I would never depend on IMDb as a news source, especially, right?
Yeah.
Or at least like the IMDb page for a movie, right?
Right.
I would never depend on that as like an actual source of information.
So I shouldn't click on this news and community button?
Definitely not the community for IMDb. I'm just saying the community for IMDb is very toxic. I'm talking like near Charlottesville level of toxicity.
How about that?
Yeah, never ever read the freaking message boards on IMDb. It's just like, it's such a cluster. I don't know why that community is as bad as it is. And I know it's not IMDb's fault, but like there's just no room for discussion on IMDb, which is really bad. But anyway, so you kind of breeze past the other pieces of information I kind of want to bring up too. So not only Matt Smith have we not talked about, we've not talked about Kerry Russell, who in terms of being in the works of J.J. Abrams has gone way back in terms of a professional relationship.
Okay.
Going back to Felicity.
Yep.
And then Dominic Monaghan, which I think somebody brought up that it's like that makes it something like 7 or 9 actors who have been in both Lord of the Rings franchise and a Star Wars related franchise of some sort.
Okay. Like in general?
Yeah, so we're talking, so Dominic Monaghan, Christopher Lee.
Yeah, there's 2.
Has been in both. I forgot.
I'm waiting on the other 5 to 7.
Again, on the Andy Serkis.
Okay.
Don't forget about Andy Serkis.
Yeah.
Then there have been a few actors who will play small bit roles in both. Who is the lead freaking dwarf from the Hobbit movies who plays Thorin Oakenshield? That guy was...
that guy was called... I don't know, I fell asleep.
Well, that in all of the Hobbit. Yeah, between all 3 Hobbits. So Thorin Oakenshield, that actor, he is a guard on Naboo in episode 1.
Ooh, that's awesome.
So somebody brought that up. I'm trying to recall the other ones, but anyways, there's a lot of crossbreeding between the Lord of the Rings franchise and the Star Wars franchise. But Kerry Russell is the piece of casting I find very interesting.
Richard Armitage.
Yes, Richard Armitage, who played the bad guy in the 3rd season of Hannibal when they got to the Red Dragon stuff, if you're a fan of Hannibal Lecter at all. Season 3 of Hannibal kind of catches up to the books and just reenacts, basically remakes. Yeah.
Interesting. Side note, The Red Dragon, the novel by Thomas Harris.
Yes.
Takes place in a city called St. Charles, Missouri.
I did not realize that.
Yes. So the events of that novel take place only miles from where I currently am right now.
Where you're recording?
Yeah.
Good to know. Have you seen either the movie version of Red Dragon or Manhunter? Or season 3 of Hannibal?
I have not seen season 3 of Hannibal.
Yeah.
I saw Manhunter, and the road scenes in the movie were actually filmed in St. Charles.
Oh, nice.
The airport scenes were filmed at Lambert Airport in St. Louis.
Nice.
So they actually did location shooting for the stuff that is relevant as far as travel purposes go. The end scene at the house was not, I don't think, a St. Charles
set somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. I think it's an actual house, but it's not
Like
in
California
the area, right?
house. Yeah.
Yeah, who knows? Manhunter is kind of a terrible movie.
Yeah, that one I have not seen. I've seen Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal, and Red Dragon. Yeah.
It is worth watching, but it's not good.
Yeah. I've always been curious about, like, I hate it.
But the Red Dragon's not that great either.
In terms of like remakes of each other and then like doing the compare and contrast thing, like I think off recording you and I had this discussion with Beauty and the Beast, right?
Yep.
But the whole
For
thing
sure.
with like American remakes of foreign movies pisses me off to no end, right? Because like the movies are so similar that it makes me feel like I'm taking crazy pills, because it's like it's the Mandela effect in action is essentially what it is, right? Like where like you watch the Korean version of Old Boy and that's like a very definite movie, and then you watch the Spike Lee American version of it and it's like all the same actions are happening, but they're happening with Josh Brolin, and I'm just sitting there, I'm like, okay, this is real, this is a thing that's gonna be burned in my memory, but there's this other version out here that's the exact same fucking movie. Anyways, how do we get on this topic? Anyways, how do we get on the Red Dragon? Oh, Richard
don't
Armitage.
remember.
Richard Armitage.
Yep.
That's
what
Richard
it was.
Armitage, yeah. So that happens with season 3 of Hannibal too, where because they're following the events of Red Dragon, it actually plays like a serialized version of the Brett Ratner version of Red Dragon. So
Interesting. I will have to watch season 3 of Hannibal then. I don't know
Yeah.
if
I would
I can watch all of it.
I would recommend it if you have time. Seasons 1 and 2 are very excellent. It's in fact one of my favorite TV shows, period, ever, of all time.
I just wrote myself a note. I need to watch Handball.
Yeah, watch Hannibal.
That's a
Again,
That's a show about
speaking.
some people playing handball.
Yes, yeah. Speaking of television ratings, like that is a very violent show that I do not know how it made it on NBC whatsoever. Like there's something about a 10 p.m. after 10 p.m. rule that eases things up, but man, like Hannibal does not hold back. Like, I mean, it doesn't go as far as like a full rated R movie per se, but
Well, don't you remember when Dexter season 1 was on? What was that on? NBC? ABC?
Or no, they did an aired like a weird cut up version on CBS. They did do that, yeah. Because CBS owned Showtime.
That.
CBS owned Showtime, and that was kind of their way to kind of get Showtime to be a thing. They showed
was it just season 1, or did they do season 1 and season 2?
I honestly don't remember. But that's a weird one too to kind of cut up and throw on TV. But apparently, like I said, if it's like after 10 p.m., there are the rules loosen, but they aren't wide open, right? So you curse on SNL and you still get in trouble.
Yeah.
Anyways, so
yeah, let's get back to
yeah.
Star Wars Episode 9.
So
we talked about Kerry Russell a little bit. Talked about Matt Smith.
The only thing we know about Kerry Russell's role is that it will be I could be getting the quote wrong, but it's like action heavy role or something like that. Like,
yeah, I thought it was odd because it was like speculation, like, ooh, we heard maybe Kerry Russell is going to be in Episode 9, and then like Kerry Russell's people were like, ooh, no, like that's rumor, like no, there's nothing, no. And then like the next day it was like, yep, confirmed.
Yeah, she's in it. Yeah.
It was weird.
Yeah, that one was weird. And then was it just end of last week is when Dominic Moynihan was announced to be in the movie?
I'm not gonna lie, I totally missed that and didn't even see it until tonight.
You just looked it up? I thought I sent that off to you.
You might have.
Yeah. So it's
sorry,
fully likely that I sent that off to you, but it probably got lost in like the 30,000 gifts I also sent you. So
that is true.
Yeah. So this cast for episode 9 is definitely it's this one I find interesting, especially with the likes of Matt Smith and Kerry Russell. Dominic Moynihan I can totally see being in something like this. Matt Smith, despite being the Doctor, has kind of shifted himself to being in, like he's on The Crown, or he was, and then, he was in American Psycho, the musical, over in the West End, which I think is funny. The behind the scenes stuff on this is very interesting, and they only started principal photography on August 1st, so they're only just starting to film as of.
So
this
they're
recording.
probably like starting reshoots like next month, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Well, the way they've been shooting this movie or this whole franchise under Disney, yes, likely. Yeah. So unless they replace JJ for some weird reason,
that's not gonna happen.
No, he'll have his shit together, because we know Abrams and Chris Terrio helped rewrite. Do we know if any of the previous script is being used at all? Because I know they brought in Jack Thorne. So
are you talking about like Colin Trevorrow's
Colin
treatment?
Colin probably had a treatment, but then I know they brought in Jack Thorne to rewrite his treatment because they didn't like his treatment, essentially. And if I don't, is Jack Thorne a name familiar to you at all?
No, but
he is
the writing credits.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, real quick.
Go
the
ahead.
Writing credits according to IMDb are in alphabetical order: J.J. Abrams, Derek Connolly, which says co-writer. Mm-hmm. George Lucas, his parentheses just says based on characters created by. Chris Terrio, that's a written by, and Colin Trevorrow is co-writer.
Interesting.
So that's all the information I have on that.
Yeah, and like I said, like that's all. IMDb just like absorbs all information that it has. It doesn't parse information, right? Until fact. Like here's the credits. Like here's the credit sequence. These are the people that are actually credited. Because then you get into like these minute details about like whether it's like J.J. Abrams and a person or J.J. Abrams ampersand a person, because that makes a difference.
Yeah, maybe it was you that was telling me about the difference between all of that, and I had no fucking idea. Like, when it's like starring as and with and also starring, like all of that shit has different technical meanings.
Yeah, there are different technical meanings. There's a lot of
It's weird.
So like it's how you credit writers, right? So this is why I bring up Jack Thorne is interesting, because like there's a possibility that they won't use him. Like it depends on how much of his script bleeds through. But Jack Thorne is the playwright for Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. So, depending on how you feel about that,
it was a thing that I read. That
yes,
we'll
same
have
here.
To talk about on another another episode.
These aren't the wizards and witches you're looking for.
Oh, we can talk about it on These Aren't the Nerds You're Looking For. Like, I'm totally okay with that. But I don't think that we need to.
We'll have to do
episode.
we'll have to do movie specials. Like, you know, we'll hit up Star Wars, we'll hit up Harry Potter, we'll hit up like Fantastic Beasts. We've kicked that around. Infinity
I'm a
War.
terrible nerd, and I have not seen all of Fantastic Beasts yet.
You are a monster. You're an absolute monster. But anyways, so I was intrigued by Jack Thorne's name kind of popping around. So either way, I feel like with JJ at the helm, this will be like a JJ creation for sure. Absolutely, right?
I agree with you. I feel bad for Rian Johnson because those that liked episode 7 and did not like episode 8 will inevitably like episode 9 and then be like, see Rian Johnson, this is how you make a fucking Star Wars sequel. This is how you fucking do it, man.
Yeah.
Which I think is bullshit. Because Rian Johnson made a great fucking movie.
Yeah.
And
I was going to say, like, if opinion is unclear to any listener, you like it. I also really, really enjoyed Last Jedi. I understand the complaints, but to me, it's not my movie, right? It's not my story to tell. It's not my expectations to put on these characters that have been missing for 40 goddamn years, right? So, I agree. Either way, you're saying that now, but I still feel like there's going to be a thing where, like, yeah, if somebody wants to pick at this movie, somehow it will still go back to Rian Johnson.
Oh,
right?
for sure.
Like,
for sure. If
somebody's
this movie sucks, it's going to be like, oh, it's
it's
Rian
because
Johnson's
Rian
fault
Johnson
because of fucking episode 8.
Yeah, because he threw away the ideas that JJ
Snoke.
had. Yeah.
That's because he killed Snoke.
Like, JJ
And,
had all these ideas, and then Ryan came in and switched it all up. I was like, that was the design, though, guys. Like, that's how you keep things interesting, because you can't throw somebody in.
And if that's the case, then fucking shame on J.J. Abrams for, like, being like, ooh, well, I had this idea, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah. Like, honestly, like, I've always heard that as, like, hearsay from, like, other fans. I've never heard anybody, like, within Lucasfilm say, like, oh, yeah, we had, like, this blah, blah, blah. Like, I've always heard it as, like, Kathleen Kennedy wanting each director to make their own movie just so that the franchise doesn't feel like 3 same movies, right?
Yeah, I don't think that we have enough. This may, I don't know. This may sound dumb to some, but I don't feel that we have enough new Star Wars to be able to get a sense for what the prime directive of Disney is yet.
Yeah, which
is odd. It's odd saying that because we have 4 movies, and before Disney, there was only 6 over the span of 30 plus years.
Yeah.
And we got 4 in like 4 years. So.
And what the other thing that really bothers me that I do not understand, that we're staying on topic of Star Wars, but we're definitely going in a path I didn't expect for this episode. But the thing
we
that
can
has
go
been
view askew. It's all good.
The thing that has been bothering me a lot are the people calling for the resignation of Kathleen Kennedy. Like, laying all sorts of crazy blame at Kathleen Kennedy.
I feel like we talked about this before.
Probably during Solo. Probably, like, during the discussion of Solo.
Probably.
Where this is how you run a company. Like, you know, look at Fox. Like, the upcoming Queen movie, the Freddie Mercury movie.
Mm-hmm.
like Bryan Singer started to direct that, but then they fired his ass because he stopped showing up to work, and also #MeToo. And Bryan Singer is an awful human being. But like nobody's disregarding the news of Disney taking over Fox and all that. Nobody's calling for like the resignation of heads at Fox Studios, 20th Century Fox, right? Like directors get replaced all the fucking time.
I actually saw a headline recently that said something to the effect of what is it? Petition reaching goal, or petition at 90% goal to remove episode 8 from canon.
Oh yeah, which is also just
it just makes me
like
that in particular just makes me laugh. Like,
yeah,
I
Like,
would have fucking signed a petition to like reinsert all the EU into canon. I know that's never gonna go anywhere, but I would totally do that. But not like people are serious about this shit.
It's the weird problem of like, number one, online petitions of that sort for non-governmental issues aren't a thing that will ever fucking work.
No, because like I'm going to start a petition, and I'm not telling anybody what it is yet, but I'm going to start one, and I'm going to come up with an arbitrary goal for the number of people that I want to sign said petition.
Yeah.
And then what?
Yeah.
What happens if I hit my goal? Do I get my thing? I'm going to get all of the magnets on Lorenzo's fridge.
Because you made this petition, like we're all legally obligated to follow this petition that you made online. Like,
not at all.
Yeah. So that's the thing, right? Like if fans had their run of things, Heath Ledger would never have been Joker, right? Like it's stuff like that. So
speaking of Joker,
yes. There was casting news for that.
There is casting news for that. Yeah, I was going to say, have you...
Alec Baldwin is playing... oddly enough, Alec Baldwin is playing Thomas Wayne. Joaquin Phoenix is playing Joker.
I think Thomas Wayne is rumored as his role, but he is in the movie. And Joaquin Phoenix is definitely playing Joker.
Oh, I saw Alec Baldwin, Thomas Wayne as like a full confirmation. Via, I want to say either Variety or Hollywood Reporter. I could be misquoting, but those are the sources I'm going to toss out there.
Okay.
And those are like actual publications too. So they're not some of the smaller like kind of news bloggy sites, but So this is a different discussion that I'm very curious about what this Joker movie is going to be, because it's technically not in the DC. Whatever they're calling it, DCEU or whatever.
Now, did you see the article like several months ago that essentially stated that the DCEU isn't even actually a thing within Warner Brothers? It was a reporter was writing about the movies and needed to call it something because because Warner Brothers had confirmed there was like a group of movies coming out in that all
there's a shared universe, but WB/DC has not officially named DC. There is no official name for it the way Marvel has officially named it the Marvel Cinematic Universe,
right?
Or at least like internally officially referred to it as such, right? Which, I mean, as much as I'm not gonna say love or even like, I'm going to put it as I don't fucking hate the DC movies as much as, say, the rest of the world might. Except for Suicide Squad. I definitely fucking hate Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad is an abomination of cinema. But
holy shit.
But when like, it's one of those things where, like, I just look at it, I'm disappointed that I know hardworking people who want to make it in this business, and then these people got paid to make that fucking mess of a movie.
Are you saying that you know the people that made that movie?
No, I'm just saying I know people who actually went to school for filmmaking and could have made it better. I'm not one of those people who's going to sit back. Again, back to the Star Wars thing where it's like, well, if I had made the movie, I would have made Luke blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, what are your qualifications for writing a story? Have you taken a writing class, blah, blah? Yeah.
I totally do that. And
Which
I
is,
totally
yeah.
did that with The Last Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
But those opinions are my opinions, and that's it.
Yes.
I think maybe more appropriate to your point is that we're not sitting here going, fire David Ayers from all things past, present, and future.
Yes. Yeah. Like, he made a very bad movie, right? So, I just, yeah. Where was I going with this? Anyways, I don't hate.
You were
all the
talking
DC
about how
movies.
much you hate Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
But how you don't hate all the
I don't
DC
Yeah,
movies.
like I actually like Man of Steel. I was okay with Batman versus Superman. There are definitely issues with it. But then, so getting to the end, I just find it interesting that with all of that, like Warner Brothers doesn't have any sort of internal name for it, and then now they're gonna throw this Joker movie at us that isn't like part of that, but it's still like a big budgeted thing, and this is meant to not confuse people.
Yeah, it's weird.
Like,
They're making some odd decisions that even if this new Joker Origins movie is good, which I have a disagreement with having a Joker Origins movie.
I disagree with making him like a protagonist at all, you know? Like,
I mean, you can totally do that, whatever. I'm cool with that idea. But what is the origin of the Joker, right?
I mean, there's like, even in comics, like you kind of have like the Red Hood description, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's there. So I'm not,
because I know recently in the comics, like Batman fucking figured out who the Joker was because of some weird like seeing eye hood cloth or wish or some shit, right?
Yeah.
And it was 4 different people.
There's I stopped,
and that's why there is
again,
no official origin of the Joker. This is
Yeah,
why Heath Ledger's Joker worked so well, because it was like this ambiguous.
Like
this guy just fucking popped up, and here he is, and you don't know what his motives are, and you don't know what drives him, and how far he'll go, and what. Without that, Batman has no ability to get into the mind of this villain to be able to fucking combat him.
See, no, here's the thing. That's what I find more aligned with the Joker. This is the character description that I need in the Joker is the lack of motive. That I don't think that an origin story will destroy the lack of motive if done right. I don't think an origin story automatically creates motive or directive for a character, right?
Okay.
I agree with you that, to me, Heath Ledger's Joker was good because you never at any point knew his reasonings or why he wanted it, other than that he wanted chaos, period, right? You know?
Right.
So to me...
Alfred put it the best when he said some people just want to watch the world burn.
Exactly. So
Done.
I don't think an origin story will undo that, especially in a standalone film, depending on whatever the fuck WB is doing here. For the Joker, that would be the only trait that I absolutely need, and it's because of that's why I don't think you can have a character like Joker carry a movie the way Thanos, far and away, is the main character of Infinity War.
For sure.
Yeah, the movie starts with him and the movie ends with him. All the motivations are his. He has very clear motivations. He has very clear reasonings. He has very clear motive for why he's doing what he's doing, and the Avengers around him are the side characters that show up in his story, right?
Yeah.
How that's going to work with a character like the Joker, I personally can't see it working. I am hopeful that WB is learning from their mess of everything pre-Justice League. And
yeah, it doesn't help that it's
forward.
going to be super confusing to like the common moviegoer.
Oh, completely. Yes. Like, this is where Star Wars works well, is because somebody like my dad, who is a Star Wars fan, but, is a casual Star Wars fan. He knows who Luke is. He knows who Leia is. He knows who Han is and Chewie, R2-D2, C-3PO. He will recognize those characters, no problem. But by the time Rogue One and Last Jedi came back, he understood the concept of Rogue One as soon as I described it to him. I said, hey, this is a Star Wars movie.
Uh-huh.
And then I just went, it's not a sequel to the one we just saw.
Right.
Right? Like, I had to give him that explanation. And then by the time Last Jedi came out, this is just how he phrased it. I was like, okay, this one is a sequel to the first one we saw. And then my dad goes, so black guy back? I go, yes. Okay. You know it. So my dad is now understanding who the new characters are, right?
Uh-huh.
But if you were going to do a movie that you have to explain that, okay, so none of that shit happened. This is just another thing, right? Like,
right. So
that's where you start
Kylo
to
Ren
fucking
is
lose
in
my
this
dad.
movie, but Han Solo is still alive.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
And Luke is here, but we're also Luke is in this universe, but he's not going to be in it. We'll have his dad.
Yeah. Like, that's the thing. Like, there has to be some sort of consistent timeline that for my dad to be able to understand, right? So,
well, for sure, when you're throwing out iconic character names like, the Joker.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, and like, reboots are fine for people like my dad, right? So, like, when the Brandon Routh, the Bryan Singer, back to Bryan fucking Singer, Superman came out, my dad understood that it was kind of its own thing, even though the movie then, like, that movie was a mess unto itself too, where even people like me I was having trouble, like, I'm like, okay, so this movie's supposed to take place 5 years after the movie that came out in 1980, but everybody has suddenly went from 80s technology to cell phones, like,
Right.
right,
And it's also supposed to disregard those other two.
yeah, it's disregarding 3 and 4, which, by my book, if this was 2 years after 4 had come out, I would have been fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it had been 26 years after Superman 2, and some 20 years after Superman 4, The Quest for Peace.
Yeah.
And then you try and say, oh, it takes place 5 years later. Yeah, that's no. That's not any. There's no logic unless the movie takes place in fucking 1985. Then no, absolutely not. But then by the time we get to Man of Steel, my dad understood that, okay, that's a complete clean start.
Yeah.
He's a huge Superman fan, so it's stuff like that you can understand. But
That's awesome.
The moment you start to insert other stuff in an ongoing thing, that's
like, oops, we forgot chapter 3.5, so we're gonna fill that in for you.
But chapter 3.5 has no bearing on chapters 4, 5, and 6, right? Like,
not directly, indirectly.
you know what I mean? Like, well, because, like, if Joaquin Phoenix is playing him, and
okay, I thought we were talking about.
Sorry.
My
In terms of your analogy for what's happening with the Joker. Like, they're trying to insert this in between other movies, but also it's not in the same world anyways.
I think they should just call it, like, the DCCF.
Yeah,
like the DC clusterfuck.
Yeah. So, again, this is said from a place where I like the DC movies, but I agree there have been massive missteps.
Yeah. So I'm
hopefully
gonna
with
I'm gonna
Aquaman,
move you forward.
let's get
sorry.
back to whatever.
Talk
we're gonna
about
talk
Aquaman and then
Oh, no.
we'll.
So I was starting a thread earlier, and I'm just kind of remembering that I said it. But I'm hoping DC has learned from their mistakes and has seen what the fact that, like, to me, Wonder Woman is one of the strongest DC or comic book movies, period, in maybe like the last 5 years. You know, I wouldn't call it the best, but it's among the best, right? I wouldn't even know what I would call the best one of the last handful of years, but that's the problem, is there's like a bizarre inconsistency where, like, Wonder Woman is a fucking solid movie. It's a fucking great movie. But then, that's off the heels of Suicide Squad, which was easily just one of the worst movies, period, ever made, ever. And then you have Justice League, which is just a mess. And what's funny is, like, everybody's like, well, like, they didn't take their time, blah, blah, blah. But if you look at it, I'm really extending this out. If you look at MCU, you had 6 movies leading into Avengers, which was the 7th movie, I believe. And then WB was only short.
The word way numbers work, if that is correct.
Well, because, like, what we got: Iron Man, Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America. Am I forgetting anything there? Yeah, so it is 5, with Avengers being the 6th movie.
Yeah, because Iron Man 3 definitely took place after.
Yeah, that's the one following the first Avengers. That's the start of Phase 2. So there's 6 movies there. With WB, you have Man of Steel, BVS, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, and then Justice League. So you're only really short one movie. It's just that WB wasted so much time in these movies. So instead of seeding anything between these movies, they were all just completely separated movies. And then by the time you get to Justice League, you're just like, wait, why? Who are these fucking characters? Like,
right. And I know I'm trying to push you on to another topic.
We'll steer back. Yeah, go ahead.
But it makes it doubly confusing because WB also has concurrent TV shows. So they have, like, the Arrowverse.
Yes.
And all of this shit is different from theatrically released cinematic adventures, shall we call them.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
there's multiple universes where even though they don't affect each other, the Marvel cinematic universe has TV shows. There's even comics that are part of the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the thing, like, they're all in there, and to some degree they might disagree with each other. There might be events here and there that kind of, to me, in my logic, don't always meld. But
right,
they don't.
But it's not like it's not like Iron Man is in all these fucking movies and Iron Man is in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and it's a different guy and doing different things at the same time.
Yeah. They might not meld, but they don't contradict.
Correct.
Right. So, anyways, that's when we say these aren't the nerds you're looking for, we mean for everything. So
yeah, so the next topic that I wanted to steer you towards is MCU related. And it's with all of this jazz around Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Yes. Yeah.
So everybody knows James Gunn got fired for tweeting some shit out 10 years ago.
Yes.
And what has happened, what we have found out most recently is that supposedly GOTG 3 is on indefinite hold.
Yes.
As Disney looks for a replacement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because as of the original schedule, they were going to start full production, like actual principal photography on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, like within the next month or two.
It was sometime soon. There was definitely...
Like before the end of the year, before the end of the calendar year.
Right. There was definitely... pre-production was in motion, and any of the crew whatever, however you want to describe the people that were working on that project,
the crew,
were they were told, as of right now, look for other work and ain't happening.
Yeah, the release allowed them to look for other work. So it didn't sound like Disney was going to try and fast track this to start up again soon.
Right.
Which is a very serious thing based on because of how Hollywood works. Once you're in a job, you're in that job. As to jump back to WB, as Henry Cavill's mustache has shown all of us between Justice League and Mission Impossible, right? So
they should have just got that dude that played Superman in the TV show. Like, everybody knows, same character. Like
Dean Cain.
Whatever.
Yeah, get Dean Cain back, please.
Well, he would have been good too.
Tyler Hoechlin. Something
As
like that.
long as Dean Cain grew a mustache.
Yes.
And then, showed up, and Batman was like, just kind of gave him a look. Aquaman was like, who the fuck are you? And then, he, quick shaved his mustache with his laser beam eyes.
Yeah. Just pull an Iron Man 2 when Rhodey comes in, and it's like, you look different. It's me, okay?
Deal with it.
It's me. Yeah.
That's right.
Anyway,
yes.
So back to Disney. Yeah, the idea that the crew is fully released is very, very serious. That's but what I like about this is to jump back to The Hobbit. Actually, let's first go back to Solo. Like, it's what Ron Howard was able to pull off and put together is absolutely a miracle.
So are they going to pull Ron Howard in for Guardians of the Galaxy 3?
That was the big joke. Just Disney just needs to put Ron Howard on full retention, essentially. Just sign a full contract with him. But
hey, when shit doesn't work out with fucking other people,
just pulling Ron Howard.
You got the gig.
But the reason to elaborate a little bit on why Ron Howard being able to pull off what he did as a miracle is because looking at The Hobbit, to do a quick version of it, Guillermo del Toro was in line, and he had done post-production for 2 years on the 2 Hobbit movies, on the potential at the time 2 Hobbit movies. And then WB and Guillermo del Toro, they started having disagreements about the final product. So Guillermo was like, look, guys, if I can't, we've been at this for 2 years. If you can't do it this way, in my best consciousness, I need to walk. I need to walk away from this. So then he did, and then that's when WB got Peter Jackson to step in. But the problem is Peter Jackson is not familiar with the pre-production that Guillermo del Toro went through, right? The idea of directing a movie isn't a matter of just looking at a script and just filming it. You have to study the script. You have to understand the character motivations. You have to understand, then from story standpoint, how you would set up cameras, pacing, what you'd want to do, storyboard, all of that. That takes time. Peter Jackson had 3 months to plan that out for 2 movies, right? So you can't just under normal circumstances, you cannot just step in, look at what a director was going to do, and then do that yourself. Because your sensibilities, your ideas of character motivations, and why the story is going to go where it's going, and how you want to tell that visually, you can't look at another person's storyboard and go, yes, okay, this is what we're going to do. Right? Does that make sense?
It does.
So then that is why I do appreciate that Disney is going to take the step back in this case, because they aren't in it yet, unlike Solo.
Right. Pump the brakes before we get to a situation where
they are not past the point of no return yet.
Correct.
Yeah. So
do you have any comments or thoughts on on the actual reality of James Gunn being cut from this project for the reason that he was.
I will make my opinion known that I am on James Gunn's side in this situation.
Okay.
I understand Disney's knee-jerk reaction, but in reality, once again, you sit back, you look at the situation. This was stupid. This was absolutely dumb to me.
Yeah, I think the reason they did what they did is because of the other things that have been going on in Hollywood and entertainment and the news in general.
Yes.
Right?
They wanted to be safe.
But I think what they should have done is pump the brakes a little bit, because I didn't hear about any of the tweets or any of that shit until after I heard that James Gunn was fired. It was like, James Gunn is fired, and then everybody was like, what the fuck? And then it was like, oh, because of this.
And then
it wasn't like this shit hit the news and then people were like, Disney, what are you gonna do? And they're like,
exactly. Yeah.
And
Disney tried to get ahead of something, but in doing that, they I don't know if you know this, but there's a name for this effect. It's called the Barbra Streisand effect. The Streisand effect is what it's called. So, in trying to cover up something that seems problematic, you in fact just make it more well known. Because I agree. That's how I found out about it. I didn't know about the tweets until he got fired.
Right.
So, the other thing I want to bring up regarding James Gunn's firing is that there was a lot of attempt to equate this between what happened with James Gunn and what happened with Roseanne Barr.
Right.
But the reason I want to bring that up and the reason that I am on James Gunn's side is because things aren't black and white, okay? Roseanne Barr tweeted something and then was fired that day for tweeting those things. Those were her feelings at the very present time that she tweeted that, and then the firing was very immediate in reaction to something that happened at the moment. Now, James Gunn's tweets, as you have mentioned, are a decade old, and he has been fired for something so far down the line that, with Roseanne Barr, that's who she is. She's an awful racist, right?
Right. And it is my understanding that James Gunn, since he has worked at Disney, like, from what I understood, Disney was aware that in the past James Gunn had this type of behavior, right?
Oh, completely.
Want to correct myself. Didn't have that type of behavior as far as what the tweets themselves said.
But just that he tweeted them, or that he would talk in that manner.
Correct. And he has apologized since then, and he has said multiple times before and after being fired, like, that was me trying to be a provocateur. I have grown as a person, personally, professionally, blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
That is not what I want to be known for. This is what I want to be known for.
Yes.
And I'll give him... One thing I will give him is, he stood up and took like a man and was like, hey, if this is what you're going to do, then, professionally I have to accept the decision. And I'm moving forward.
And that's exactly the point I wanted to make. If you're not going to allow people to grow and change and adjust in 10 full fucking years, like you have to then question like all advancements in humanity, like socially, like just what are you talking about, right? Like the world is different between 2008 to 2018, like just the cultural mindset's completely different, right? And then like work it back another 10 years before that, like 1998's completely different from 2008, So, like, what are you going to do? Like, people said some random shit in, like, 1998 in reference to, like, this other thing, you know? Like...
Yeah, and I brought this up to you with regards to Disney buying Fox.
Mm-hmm.
If Disney were going to keep things consistent, they should immediately get rid of Family Guy.
Yeah. Like...
One of the main... or one of the secondary characters on the show is a pedophile.
Oh, completely.
And their pedophilia jokes up and down that show. And it is it's written as comedy. I mean, it's a cartoon that pushes the boundaries of what is acceptable to be on TV.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody thinks that the creators of Family Guy are endorsing pedophilia.
Or
they
that
just
they're
have, like,
pedophiles
Herbert.
themselves. Yeah.
Right. They just have Herbert the pervert.
Yeah, exactly. So this is my frustration. Like, this is completely all my frustration with all of this. Just the idea that somebody could hold me to something that I said 10 years ago when I was just a fucking idiot, in college. Right? It's just, like, stupid. It's just absolutely stupid. No, like, judge me on recent things I've done, like, in the last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, even 5 years ago, right? Like, I was a different person, Like, I would not have had my shit together to do this podcast even, like, 3 or 4 years ago,
Right.
So this is the thing that's really troubling me about the James Gunn thing, and the thing that people are trying to equate it to the Roseanne Barr thing. Like, just
It's not the same.
It's not the fucking same thing at all. Not even fucking close. So,
if James Gunn would have made similar comments that he made 10 years ago on his Twitter account last week, I would have said, all right,
like,
James,
what the fuck, James Gunn?
Yep, you're an idiot.
Yep.
You deserve to be fired. Like, that sucks.
Absolutely.
And the cast and crew, Dave Bautista wouldn't be sticking up for him as much as he is.
Oh, yeah.
I think Dave is probably the reason that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 currently is not moving forward in its current iteration. Because he's drawn the line saying, nope, this ain't happening. I'll fucking leave. Like, no, fuck you guys. Like, James Gunn is my friend. He gave me a chance. Yeah. Like, I have worked with him day in, day out for fucking years. And the shit that he said back then is not the person that he is.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you want Drax? Then you need fucking James Gunn.
Yeah. Like, it's just... Yeah, like, either way, the Bautista situation I think is really funny because he gives no fucks at all.
Nope.
Yeah, his Twitter has been very inspiring to watch, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like, that's the thing. Bautista has it right. Like, he's with them.
He's not going to allow a friend of his to be bullied.
Yeah.
Even though, the things that James Gunn did way back in the day are wrong and inappropriate. Dave's like, no, time out here, people. We're not doing this.
We're way too far removed from that.
Right.
And then, like, but the only other interesting thing that I know happened, and I am curious as to what happened in the room, is that Disney did extend another meeting with James Gunn.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just a few weeks ago, like, before this was put on hold. So it was after the firing, after a bunch of the shitstorm had ensued, and then they invited him back to Disney Studios, had a meeting, I believe it was, like, between Bob Iger himself, or if not Iger, it was one of the...
No, it wasn't Bob.
It wasn't Iger?
No.
It was like head of the like live action studio department or something like that then, right? It was something like that. But they had like a meeting and I don't know, again, we don't have a lot of information. We do know the meeting took place. But I'm curious if the meeting was just kind of have like one last like meeting of understanding, or just like kind of your last piece to have to say to each other. So like I don't know if Disney extended that invitation period really, but or like if James Gunn made a request, or
I think my opinion, and this is not based on any fact, by the way, it was with Alan Horn, chairman of the Walt Disney Studios.
Yes. Yes.
My opinion is that it was simply there as a formality of finality.
Yeah, that's why I am curious about the reasonings. If we can, I doubt we'll ever find it out, but that's what I'm curious about, if that's where Disney was coming from. You know,
Right.
like if James Gunn was walking into a room that he was never going to walk out with his job from, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I still find that bizarre, because if James Gunn had done something awful, there is no need for that, right? Like breach of contract or whatever. Bryan Singer left the Queen movie and nobody fucking cared, right?
Right. And James Gunn wasn't even actually in breach of contract, because all this shit happened before he was ever under contract with Disney.
Yeah. And it was all known information too. It was all
Right.
public known information.
Right.
So that's the thing that really frustrates me about all of this. So there's other weird implications too. So like in any case, like the two Guardians of the Galaxy movies exist. The material on the Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout ride, which was also directed by James Gunn, is there, still playing, runs every day. You know,
Bobcat Goldthwait.
Yep, I was gonna bring up that one too.
Okay, so Bobcat Goldthwait tweeted after all of this, basically calling out Disney, saying, "Hey Disney, you know, if this is what you're gonna do to James, you might as well be consistent, and you should fire me, and you should get rid of all of the stuff that he's been associated with Disney." Right?
No, he got more specific. He even put it in the same context, actually. So he didn't talk about stuff going back, because he voiced Pain, I believe, right? One of the characters from Hercules.
You are correct.
So he did the voice of Pain.
Yep.
And then Bobcat threw this. This is where I could see a breach of contract happening. So Bobcat, I think, was like fully playing a game of chicken with Disney. For those unfamiliar, there's a nighttime show at Disney California Adventure, which is the second gate park at the Disneyland Resort. There's Disneyland Park and then Disney California Adventure. There's a nighttime show called World of Color. All right. So it's that park's version of fireworks, right? They have different versions that will happen. So like there's a normal version, there's a Christmas version. They'll add like a little cute little pre-show for like they do one for a Lunar New Year, which is really cool.
Right.
It's a show that evolves, right? Bobcat Goldthwait, in his, I believe, Instagram post or his Twitter post, writes that, "Hey Disney, I recorded vocals for World of Color Villainous, which was supposed to be the show for Halloween. Go ahead and take my voice out of that." So like Disney had never ever mentioned that the show existed. Like there has never been a previous Halloween version of World of Color ever. Right. And then so Bobcat Goldthwait writes this, and then everybody's like, "Wait, there's gonna be a Halloween version?" Like, what the fuck?
Right. Not only with spoilers.
Yes.
But calling Disney's bluff.
Yeah.
And then he went on to say, There's many jokes I made as a comedian when I was coming up in the industry.
Yeah.
Because I needed to say something to get my name out there so
Yes.
people would remember me and know who I was. And most of these things I am not proud of anymore. Most of these things were inappropriate. Most of these things are not too dissimilar to what James Gunn was fired for.
Yeah.
So in the spirit of consistency, you should probably fire me as well.
And like, what doesn't make sense too is like if you go back, Hercules in 1997, Bobcat Goldthwait was doing like his adult dirty stand-up comedy concurrently with the release of fucking Hercules.
Right.
So that's where I get confused. Sarah Silverman is another one as of right now that I don't understand. Where Disney's trying to draw these fucking lines. Sarah Silverman's going to be in the new Wreck-It Ralph movie playing Vanellope.
Okay.
But her stand-up is fucking filthy. You know? She's saying shit all the fucking time.
I don't know.
So that movie's coming out in November. It's not like they're fucking removing her, re-recording all of her lines, right?
Right. Do you think that there's any chance of moving forward with Guardians of the Galaxy with James Gunn involved?
With James Gunn, no. I think that's done.
Okay.
I will be very shocked.
In like some type of role that is not directorial, because wasn't he an executive producer as well?
Yeah,
he sure as hell was an executive producer on
Infinity War.
Yeah,
no. Yeah. I think he's fully removed from all things. If anything, there might be like story beats or whatever that might be credited to him regarding Guardians of the Galaxy Part 3, Volume 3. As to any sort of creative hand, unless Disney really does get their shit together, I don't see it. But again, like it's such a weird. This is still a weird thing because it would to draw a few more lines. Because another thing I want to bring up is, in terms of bringing up Sarah Silverman, it reminded me of Louis C.K.'s removal from the sequel to Secret Life of Pets.
Okay, yeah.
Now, that one, James Gunn wrote tweets, right? He didn't assault anybody. He didn't do, right? Like,
he didn't, like, jerk off on people while they were reading his tweets.
Yeah, so that's another line that's, I can understand as well, whereas, like, with the, Kevin Spacey thing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That happened 30 years ago, but again, what he did 30 years, like, the reason I'm mad at Kevin Spacey is because he did something horrific and he should have been punished then. He should be punished now, right? That's the difference, right? James Gunn 10 years ago, yeah, like those tweets aren't great, but they aren't anything illegal. There's nothing that he should go to like jail for over it.
Right.
Whereas Kevin Spacey doing something 30 years ago, throwing himself on top of a 16, 17-year-old actor, right? Anthony Rapp. That's not good. So, but anyways, going back to James Gunn, with the fact that he met Alan Horn as one kind of final step, that's where I would be surprised in this day and age that if Disney did a reversal on, like, I don't know why Disney wouldn't do a reversal on this one. You know, the fact that, like, say Bryan Singer kept getting hired is what surprised me, because the stuff that he did, I knew about long before the Me Too movement stuff started happening, you know? That's what surprised me, because when Weinstein was starting to go down, I made the joke with my friends. I was like, Bryan Singer has to be really nervous in a room right now. And then one of my friends knew what I was talking about, but then a couple of my other friends didn't, and I brought it up, and they're like, shit.
Yeah, I would not have known.
Yeah. I don't know how I knew about it, but it was, again, that was another one of those things where I was just like, okay, like, I get it. Like, yeah, Weinstein, Bill Cosby, those are guys that need to go down, but we really need to take another look at why Bryan Singer keeps getting hired onto X-Men movies. You know, like, we need to have a good look at this. So, anyways, we've really run the full gamut on this kind of news update of an episode. It's also been kind of nice just chatting with you because usually you and I will just text back and forth. We don't actually sit down to talk about this stuff. So
this is all of this past 2 hours is pretty similar to the before and after chats and in the green room, as they say.
Yeah.
Before and after episodes.
Yeah.
So
this will really happen where like Kevin and I will record an episode for 2 hours and then we'll stop recording, and then for another hour and a half we'll get distracted talking about all of this same shit that we have just been talking about.
Yeah.
So this has been nice. Yeah. Is there any like any final word on the James Gunn thing that what do you think about the future of James Gunn and Disney?
I think that not to make a pun, but I think Disney jumped the gun. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
I know that's been said 100 million times by now. It's unfortunate. I don't think it's going to ruin his career. I think he took it like a man, you know, or however you want to say that. You know, he stood up and said, "All right, essentially, I don't agree, but I accept." So,
yeah, the departure on his end definitely was as graceful as anybody in that position could have handled it, which I think says a lot too. Like, if he had like gone off the rails and pulled a Roseanne Barr, then sure, like, oh shit, there's something there to that, right?
Right. I'm trying to think of the tweet that I sent to you last week. Not tweet. I texted you. Whatever it is. I'm great with technology. I know things about my script idea that I was going to send to James Gunn about what was it?
I vaguely remember this. I don't remember the specifics.
Yeah, it was just a play on Guardians of the Galaxy and all of the characters in it.
But Guardians of the Galaxy 3 will definitely happen no matter what. Do you think
it's gonna make me sad a little bit, to be honest.
Do you think do you think they're gonna try and reach out to other filmmakers that have worked within the MCU before? Or do you think they're gonna reach out for fresh blood? You know, like a new perspective.
I'm expecting fresh blood. I'm expecting somebody that will come in for cheap and try to do an homage to Guardians Volume 1, Volume 2, so that potentially fans will at least get the feeling of James Gunn, and or that whatever director is stepping into the role cares, right? And I don't know. I mean, I think there's a potential that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 never fucking happens. Like, it doesn't have to.
Yeah, that could be
even
part
though
of it too.
Even though two fucking movies, $1.7 billion, right?
Yeah. Yeah, like when you're dissecting the overarching franchise to the smaller one, it's a big chunk of it, right? Whereas, say, you know, the newest Ant-Man isn't performing great, you know, and even trying to not compare it to the epic year Marvel's clearly been having regarding Black Panther and Infinity War, but even amongst other MCU films, you know, Ant-Man's not doing great. Again, you don't see anybody calling out for the blood of Kevin Feige. Just because a movie's underperforming the way people fucking went nuts for Solo.
Right.
But Marvel's always been very interesting regarding the talent they pull in. Whereas, like, Kathleen Kennedy's off the bat, it really looked like she was trying to pull in at least, like, fresh, younger filmmakers that might have kind of a different angle on Star Wars rather than just like, hey, make this Star Wars. They never wanted to put their stamp on Star Wars per se, like from a corporate Disney down standpoint. Does that make sense? Whereas Marvel I've always I felt they've gotten better about it, but I've always felt like the early films did kind of fall in that rut where, especially with the first Ant-Man, you had Edgar Wright, who was about to direct that film, and then, talk about switcheroos, the Alan Payton, or no, Peyton Reed.
Peyton Reed.
Peyton Reed. I think
Alan
I was getting
Horn is the head of
Alan. Yep.
Disney.
Because I think I was thinking Thor 2 was directed by Alan Taylor. I think that's where I got mixed up there too.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to pull that one out.
I don't know why I can pull that one out of my ass, but I that one I did. But no, Marvel's been more of an interesting mixed bag in terms of you started with Jon Favreau, who I would put in that same category of having like a fresh, interesting eye on how to make movies, especially if you look at his rap sheet, at his resume leading up to that first Iron Man. Like, he wasn't a big director, but the director of Swingers he didn't direct Swingers, he wrote it, but he directed Made, he directed Elf, and he directed
which
Zathura.
I just learned recently.
Oh really? You didn't realize that?
I did not know that
Yeah.
until recently.
So, because that's kind of why he's in it, because like he had been in his other movie, so he shows up in Elf.
I didn't even realize that he was in Elf, and
He's a
my
doctor,
wife
yeah.
and oldest daughter fucking loved that movie.
Yeah.
And watched
This
it
upcoming
multiple
season.
times during. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Pay
the
attention.
Christmas movie in our home.
Yeah, pay attention this upcoming season. And then Zathura is the other film he directed, which I love Zathura as like the weird sequel to Jumanji for sure. But yeah, like there was no reason to put that much faith into that director per se. But again, he had a different eye. And then you get to Hulk, which is Louis Leterrier, I believe. It's French, so I'm gonna just slur it with my American accent.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Jon Favreau comes back for Iron Man 2, which makes sense. And then, you get into I always forget who Kenneth Branagh directed the first Thor. So you pull in like a Shakespearean director, and then you go with Joss Whedon for Avengers, who, he can fucking deliver, right? And then like Thor 2 is Alan Taylor. Yeah, it's like and then Shane Black for Iron Man 3. Yeah, it's like it's an interesting mixed bag of directors.
Yeah.
So I've always been curious about that.
I've seen call on the internet for the Russo brothers to do Guardians of the Galaxy because certain fans were impressed with how the Guardians were treated in Infinity War. I like the Russo brothers. I really love Winter Soldier. So, disclaimer, Cap's my dude, and I love all three Cap movies. I liked Infinity War a lot. I don't necessarily think that the Russo brothers need to be like the savior of the MCU.
Yeah.
And as you just talked about how there's been so many different directors up until this point, like let's kick that back into gear. Unfortunately, if it's James Gunn getting fired, that has to reinvigorate the MCU and bring in some fresh talent, then let's make a positive out of this.
Yeah. Because I'm going to admit, like, I definitely put Marvel above what Warner Brother has done, but to be fair, I was lukewarm to a lot of the MCU movies. We have discussed this off recording. I don't know if we talked about it, on an official stance.
Probably.
But like Iron Man is still like tops to me. Like, I think that's just a great movie overall, not even just like amongst comic book movies. Hulk to me was very standard action flick. I found the same thing with Iron Man 2. Thor I thought was just an actual terrible movie. And then I felt the same way, like Avengers did what it needed to do, but then getting into phase 2, like Iron Man 3 was fine. Thor 2 I liked better than the first one, but again, it was just fine. So people who really love the Marvel movies, I understand completely.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier was the one I watched. I was like, holy shit, that's an awesome movie. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would.
So you skipped over Captain America: First Avenger there.
Oh, I liked Captain America: First Avenger. I think that was a strong lead into Avengers, and it definitely was better than to me, that would be the second best movie of Phase 1. I would kind of put it in
After Iron Man.
Yeah, after Iron Man, and then however you like. Avengers to me, I always it's hard to judge Avengers movies against like everything else because they have their own specific job to do.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. So,
It
judging just the first 5, yeah, Captain America easily is the second best of that. But again, it's a very good movie. I wouldn't put that up there with Iron Man as being like a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a strong, solid movie. But then Winter Soldier steps in, and I think that's a strong movie. Like that's a great movie right there.
Yeah, it is.
And then Civil War, yeah, definitely again just another good movie that has to do what it has to do. But then again, like coming with like the first Ant-Man, it was fine. But I'm not gonna lie, like when I went to go see the second Ant-Man, leading up to Infinity War, I was trying to do like a rewatch of everything, but I only made it as far as I think like Iron Man 3 and Thor: Dark World, I think is like kind of where I fizzled out. Now at some point I'll get back into it.
Yeah.
But watching Ant-Man and the Wasp, things were happening. I was like, I honestly don't remember these characters from the first movie.
Interesting.
Like the first Ant-Man I thought I had a good grasp on it, but then I'm like, shit, that might have been a much more forgettable movie than I mean, in the way that you remember a movie being forgettable, I guess, like I don't, or the way you don't, like I thought I remember the first Ant-Man, but then
That's
kind
of how I felt about the Star Wars Resistance trailer.
Uh-huh.
To loop
Well,
it
yeah,
all the way
'cause-
back to the beginning.
Yeah, there are so many characters showing up in that one. But again, like starting a new show, yeah, it's not a sequel to a thing.
Right.
It's
It's the next chapter.
It's a new thing, yeah. But then, yeah.
I don't know if it's a new book yet or not.
Yeah.
It might be.
It's a chapter.
But
It's a chapter.
We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. If it's 10 episodes, then it's maybe not a book, a novella. So.
It's probably a young adult book.
Yeah.
Or
but like the lower spectrum too,
it's
like
not even
like a young adult.
Yeah.
Like a tween book.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There's like a specific. I don't know. I'm making shit up right now, probably.
Yeah.
Because like all the Star Wars canon and Legends books are like YA. They're young adult.
Yeah.
That's where they're shelved. Maybe it's like junior. I don't know.
Yeah, junior. Yeah, like a high junior.
Yeah, because they're the ones that are like 95 pages. That's what we
Yes.
got here.
Yeah.
Resistance.
Yep.
So
I would agree with that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see chapter 1.
October
7th.
And then hopefully Kevin and I will find some time to be able to talk about it. And then any other news nerd. I almost put news and nerd together, and I was about to say nude.
Nude.
But
any nude nerd news? Not that I can think of.
anything else that you want to discuss? We've gone a long while, so
Yeah,
I was
we went
again
about an hour
not
longer than I expected to.
I
today, so
agree.
that's all right.
Well, because I thought we were only going to talk about Star Wars, and then as soon as we started hopping on the James Gunn train, I was like, oh shit, no, we got to get into it. So
Yeah, I planned on bringing that up, but I didn't want to tell you in advance. So
nope, that's fine. That's
Sorry about
okay.
that.
That's fine. Well, I mean, I like this though. I kind of like doing like this little catch up on air sort of thing. So maybe not like every week, but maybe like once a month we'll introduce this. We've had other grand plans for this show, but then we keep getting stuck into
we
Clone
have
Wars, so.
more plans than we have time for.
Yes,
but
exactly.
We're working on fitting some stuff in, and
Yeah.
I'm working on scheduling with some people to bring some guests on
Nice.
our main show, and I almost reached out to somebody today to surprise you and be like, hey, this person's going to be on too. But I decided not to because I was like, I don't know when the fuck I'm going to get down to the basement and whatnot.
We'll see. It's fine. It's all good.
We did have a surprise guest earlier. That was my dog, Chewbacca Presley.
Yes.
He's, after I let him sit on my lap, he's been good. He's just been chilling here for the past hour and a half.
Aww.
So.
Yeah. Nobody else can see him, but Chewy is licking Kevin's nose. I can see via my Skype window.
Microphone, buddy.
No, now he knows. Now he knows not to do anything.
Yeah.
So there he goes. Away again. Anyways, been good chatting with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's late for you, so I'll let you.
Yeah. Well, we'll do a real quick shouts out and plugs and whatnot.
Yes.
So, thanks Kevin at They Call Me K-Dub on Twitter and Instagram for being our illustrator and putting together our hero pose.
Yes.
And Lindsay, our musician, came up with our music, our intro outro music. You can, if you would like to reach out to her through email, strangefantasymusic@gmail.com. You can hit me up on Twitter at Not the Nerds.
Yep.
You can hit up Lorenzo on Facebook at Not the Nerds Podcast. If you want to do the old-fashioned email thing, notthenerdspodcast@gmail.com. And sometime in the future, we will have a website dedicated to this show.
Yeah,
so
that's been in the works for a while.
A little bit recently. Yeah, he's been super busy at work, so
no problem. Websites, that's no easy task. Yeah,
right. He's generous enough to be helping us out with this project. So, next, if I come across some news on that front, I will let you know.
Awesome.
But, other than that, I think that's about it, man. You got anything else?
Nope. I think that's it. Thanks to the for all the listeners to listening to us. Just kind of going on a loose journey of conversation here.
Yeah, another 2 hours of Kevin and Lorenzo. So
yeah, hopefully it's been somewhat entertaining and enjoyable. And if you have opinions on any of this news that we just talked about, reach out to us. We would love to hear from any of you that are listening to us. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
anyways, I'll talk to you later, Kevin.
Yeah. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.